Prayer by the chaplain.
I'll start today by telling you a short story about a bird by the name of Robert Robin. Robert Robin was like most birds, most robins anyway. He flew south in the wintertime, but unlike other robins, he was always the first one back to his little town of Wington. He always got back because he always wanted to find the best worm garden of any of the robins. So he would come back, and once in a while it would be, a little snow that he'd have to fly through. But he always thought, that's okay, because I'll be the first one back. So this spring he flew back, and he was flying over town looking for the best worm garden in all of Wington. And there he saw it, the most beautiful piece of green grass in the whole town. He flew down there, and he whipped out his sign, and he pounded his sign in the front of this green lawn and said, "Robert Robin's Worm Garden. No other birds allowed." And he turned around and looked, and there was another robin. Oh, his feathers stuck up on the back of his neck, of course, and he looked at the robin, and the other robin looked back at him, and he stuck out his tongue. And just that quick, the other robin did the same thing. So he took out a feather and he threw it at him. And the other robin, that quick, pulled out a feather and threw it right back. So he punched him, and just that fast, the other robin punched back, and pretty soon they were really having a tussle. And all of a sudden, he heard Pastor Penguin say, Robert, what are you doing?" And he turned to look to see who was saying that. And he said, "This other robin." And he looked back. And that's when he noticed the other robin he was fighting with was his own reflection in the window of Mr. Millionaire's mansion. Oftentimes, our greed is our own worst enemy. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask you to inspire us to find your will. Amen.
The chaplain for today is Representative Tim Faust from District 11B in Hinckley, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing while we recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 88th session, 2013, third day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Monday, January 14, 2013.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Petitions and communications.
Communication from the Governor, address to the Honorable Paul Thiessen, Speaker of the House. Dear Mr. Speaker, I respectfully request the opportunity to address a joint session of the 88th Minnesota State Legislature on Wednesday, February 6, 2013 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of presenting my State of the State message. Sincerely, Mark Dayton, Governor. Murphy E. moves that the invitation be extended to the Governor to address the Joint Convention of the House of Representatives, and that the Senate it be held in the House chamber at 7 p.m. Wednesday, March 6, 2013. that the Chief Clerk be instructed to invite the Senate by message to meet in joint convention to convene at 6:45 p.m., and that the Governor be advised accordingly, and that the Speaker appoint a committee of 5 members of the House to act with a similar committee appointed by the Senate to escort the Governor to the joint convention.
Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I move that we invite the Governor to a joint convention of the House and the Senate for the purpose of the State Address, and I ask for your vote.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion prevails. Representative McDonald.
Mr. Speaker, point of personal privilege.
State your point of personal privilege.
I rise today to take a little bit of time to pause and recognize the passing of my father, which was October 4th of this past year, a former state representative. And if I have your indulgence, I just want to read a brief statement by Bill Salisbury that wrote something in the Pioneer Press. Former Representative K.J. McDonald dies. Former State Representative K. McDonald of Watertown, one of the memorable 20th century characters of the Minnesota legislature, has died. McDonald, 81, a mayor of Watertown for the past 7 years, passed away Thursday night with a lengthy battle with cancer. A Korean War veteran and a professional photographer, McDonald served 7 terms in the House from 1977 to 1990. The Republican lawmaker will best be remembered at the Capitol for his Irish brogue and gift of gab. I guess I didn't fall far from the tree. He was a great orator on the floor who loved his country and his family, said former House Speaker Steve Swingham. He was a great joy to be around, always positive and enthusiastic. His son, Joe McDonald, now serves in the House since 2010. And then I'll read just a brief statement from the Belle Plaine Herald. Representative Woodward, your great newspaper. Here's what they wrote. A colorful character in the history of Minnesota legislature and politics, former K.J. McDonald passed away Thursday evening with a battle of cancer. He was 81. A fiery orator and staunch Republican, Kenneth James McDonald served in the primary DFL-controlled Minnesota House of Representatives from 1977 to 1991. He was known for working with DFLers on issues during a time when collaboration between the two parties was more likely than today. I was 11 years old when my father was elected, spent many times up in the gallery looking down on him and his colleagues, and then walking through the corridors and the hallways of the Capitol and the SOB. And I thought this was a great place to be, because everybody seemed to be in great spirits. Everybody was shaking hands and laughing and enjoying each other's company and truly believed they were doing what's best for their districts. My father was so proud to serve in the House to represent the people of Carver County. I don't think there was a day that went by that he didn't believe that God put him here for that time to do the best for those people. And I think that I'd like to send a message to all people in our state that we too now, some 20-some years later, get along well. I look across the aisle and I see great friends, good faces that we work together. We don't always agree, and that's fine. But on things we do agree, we do it well for the state of Minnesota. And I learned that from my father, and hope that it'll be a lesson to all of us, that we get along, we work together, and do what's best for our districts. I think that's what we're doing here. I'd like to yield to Lyndon Carlson.
Representative Carlson.
Mr. Speaker, members, I'm one of the few remaining members that actually served with Representative McDonald, and we always knew him as KJ. That was one of the things that I remember about him, and some of the things that his son Joe just read would adequately represent my remembering of him on the House floor and sometimes in committee hearings. But I did serve with him several terms. He was a very interesting personality when he would get up and speak on the issues. I had forgotten about the Irish brogue part, but I was going to point out that one of the things that I noticed the first time that his son got up, Representative Joe McDonald, was you sound just like your dad. And it would be pretty hard to distinguish between the two of you here on the House floor. but it was always a pleasure to serve with your father, and I do want to now yield to Representative Leidiger.
Representative Leidiger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. KJ was my constituent, and he held this seat for 14 years. He was born just outside of Watertown in 1929. He was an irreplaceable lifelong advocate of his district, and he went by many titles over the years: husband, veteran, photographer, state representative, Toastmaster, and Toastmaster president, Legion commander, local actor, father, parishioner, council member, Lions member, grandfather, friend, Boy Scout, and as mayor. He held a deep-rooted belief that good governance comes from good neighbors, and he led with that vision as a guidepost for his decision-making, consistently reminding leaders and staff alike that the best decisions are made closest to the people. KJ lived out what it means to be a good public servant, putting community ahead of personal advancement. And just a few months before KJ had passed this last year, the City Council of Watertown held a tribute for KJ, and I was honored to attend. And in my life, I'd never seen anything like it. So many people in attendance at an event like that from so many different walks of life, from Red Cross members and school board members and the Catholic Church and the Lutheran Church and the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and mayors from 7 different cities all attended, and it was a sight to see. We can all only hope that we can serve the way that KJ served. And Mr. Speaker, I ask for a moment of silence in remembrance of KJ McDonald.
Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business has been placed upon each member's desk. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The Chief Clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 90 through 127.
First reading, House Files 90 through 127. Announcement by the Speaker.
Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announced the appointment of the following members of the House to a committee to escort the Governor to the Joint Convention on Wednesday, February 6, 2013. Schwansky, Erickson R., Helverson, Nornes, and Howell.
Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there are no objection, we will take action on those motions first. Hearing no objection, those motions prevailed. Do you need this now? There is a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Pursuant to Rule 4.30, Davids moves that the House File 63 be recalled from the Committee on Taxes, be given its second reading, and be placed on the General Register.
Representative Davids, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and that is my motion. What we need to do here, members, is something that the taxpayers really need, and they need it right now. We need to get this done because taxpayers will be filing their taxes, and we need the Department of Revenue, the CPAs, TurboTax folks, H&R Block, every CPA, every accountant out there to be able to know what the tax rates are. We need to get this done now to prevent one of two scenarios from happening. The first is the taxpayer does not realize that there's been a change, does not go to amend his tax return, and leaves quite a bit of money on the table. The second is they do realize there's been a change. They have to go back to amend their filings, and they come out and they have more expenses in that regard. We need to get the money back to the taxpayer. And I agree with Assistant Commissioner Susan von Mosch, who stated that conformity as early as possible is beneficial. I agree with Todd Koch of the CPA, Minnesota Institute for CPAs, when he said that he wants to be paid less money by not making people come back to him for amended returns. And Representative Lencheski, I agree with you that we need to contact our senators, let them know this is an important issue. And what better way to send the message than to have the House send them a bill saying we want to conform. Now, members, House File 63 is the same as Representative Lencheski's House File 6. I support Representative Lencheski's House File 6. I believe we need to do this today. And members of this House, the tax share is not the problem here. I believe the tax share could get this through committee. I've requested that my members support the chair's bill, but we do have a real problem here with the Senate. They seem to have no sense of urgency whatsoever. So members, let's get this bill out of committee. Let's get it passed today. Let's send it over to the Senate, and then we've got something to talk to them about. I appreciate your support.
Representative Lencheski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Davids, and I apologize to the body, I have a sore throat. Representative Davids is absolutely right, except for that we should not violate our committee process, members. We don't yank bills out of committee that have not been voted on and bypass processes and committees unless the will of the body is being thwarted, and that has not been the case. Indeed, when I introduced House File 6, I worked hard to bring it to the attention of the Tax Committee this year by making a point to schedule it as the very first Tax Committee hearing. And when I noticed that that very day Representative Davids introduced an identical bill, I asked him if I could schedule it. And he told me he couldn't be there because he was going to have a grandchild that day, the day we were going to have the hearing. And so I said, well, I'll do it for you. And I carried his bill for him. And I think the committee understands the urgency involved with helping our taxpayers. And it's great to hear that it's bipartisan. And I think this is a good sign that we will stand united as 134 members when we take that vote to support a clean tax bill that simply addressed conformity for our taxpayers early on. Now, I also want to support Representative Davids in saying that we need to contact our senators, all of us, so that they can understand that we want a bill that's just got tax conforming and nothing else. We are a new legislature. We have not heard bills on various tax items that others are interested in. And so to send a tax conformity bill without a commitment from the Senate to do a clean tax conformity bill would be a mistake. Additionally, members should get some comfort in knowing that the IRS has just sent out a ruling on January 8th saying that filers are going to begin filing late this year and that the federal government will take filing starting February 1st. So that's a little later than usual, so we have a little bit more time. But we don't want to kid ourselves here. Representative Davids is right. The quicker we can get this done, the better for our taxpayers. And so I hope when we get to that vote, which I hope is very soon, we will pass that bill, as we usually have, together. However, today is not that day. We have not had a vote in the Tax Committee. The bill has not gone to Ways and Means. And I would ask members that we not violate our own rules, the rules of the Minnesota House, and we send the bill through the full committee process with a great expectation that most members understand now the urgency and why we need to vote together, hopefully very soon. And I would urge a no vote.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The motion does not prevail. Announcements. Representative Mason.
Mr. Speaker, members, just a reminder that at 4 o'clock the chandelier in the rotunda will be raised and lit. This is really a rare opportunity, so I certainly want to encourage everyone to be out there. There will also be musical entertainment.
Representative Nornis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I can have your attention for just a moment, I have a very important announcement to make. As we speak and as we're meeting at this very time, there's 127 high school students from Fergus Falls on a bus heading to Washington, D.C. Some of you may have seen television coverage, but I'm proud to say that our marching band has been selected as one of the 100 to march in the inaugural parade on January the 21st. And that's a big deal. But the important thing, I guess, to point out to you is this is the second time that they've been invited to do this. They were there 4 years ago as well. And 3,000 high schools competed for that opportunity. So from 3,000, they whittled it down to 600. From 600, they went down to 300. And now they're one of the final 100. That's good. But it took $60,000, and I have to point out that they found out just before Christmas that they were going to Washington, D.C. They needed to raise $60,000 before today to make the trip. As of last night, they'd raised $75,000 for the trip. So it speaks well of all of the people that support high school bands and music of my community, and they represent the whole state of Minnesota coming up on the 21st. So I just wanted to say hats off to my band and our students. Thank you very much.
Further announcements. Representative Murphy.
Mr. Speaker and members, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 12 noon, Tuesday, January 22nd, 2013.
Representative Murphy E. moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn until 12 noon, Tuesday, January 22nd, 2013. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The motion prevails. Representative Murphy.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Murphy E. moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The motion prevails, and the House stands adjourned until 12 noon, Tuesday, January 22nd, 2013.